And for the first time, I am doing a syndication live stream to Twitter. All right. I think I can do it now without being having the extra. Okay. So I'm syndicating on a couple of different platforms. That was Instagram just chiming in, which was the first time I've ever done this on Instagram, as well as all the other channels, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And today in the Northern Hemisphere, it is winter solstice, and happy summer solstice to those of my friends and followers in the Southern Hemisphere. And I pulled a card from the Isis Oracle deck by Alana Fairchild, inspired by the going within energy, the reflective mood that many of us, many in my world, choose to partake in as a way of assessing this past year. This is no matter where you are in the world, most of us are following the Gregorian calendar. And so we are in the final days of December. And so this inquiry and card that I'm going to be offering you, I think is very relevant for not only the cycles and the time of the year that we are in, but also within the context of where we find ourselves on the planet with everything going on, with all of the disruption and hardship and struggle and separation that's still very much being perpetuated and profited from. I feel like the card that I pulled is going to be very relevant for us to return back into our own sacred center as a place of power to proceed. And so the card that I pulled is called the Temple of Black Obsidian. Temple of Black Obsidian. And this is the way it goes. The card is the Temple of Black Obsidian, the Dark Healing Chamber. Beloved initiate, the most challenging task is not to confront an external enemy, but to take courage in both hands and journey within, to meet our own dark self and begin the healing task of bringing love, acceptance, and light to it. That is the sacred purpose of any enemy, within or without, to bring us more deeply into our own being as we seek to find and heal the darkness within. Now, I'm not going to go too much further into this. You can look up this deck and this card if you'd like to read more. But one thing I will say that she proceeds to go on with one more sentence, which is the Temple of Black Obsidian is a ruthlessly honest place of raw love and healing, truly profound and lasting. And so with all of the againstness that we see perpetuated on our planet right now, with all the us versus them narrative that continues to be perpetuated, when we look at something that is going on, quote, out there, when we look at the headline or the starving child or the homeless, houseless person, mother and her baby, when we see something that we feel deeply touched by, moved by, pain, some trauma triggered by, when we see the warring between nations, between brothers and sisters who literally, when left to their own devices without the external forces of the dominance paradigm enforcing itself over them, would find a way to be at peace, would find a way to come together. That is my deep belief. When we see that struggle and that pain and that trauma, how what's going on within me? What's going on within you when you see that? I believe that this card is inviting us, if we were to take the opportunity to reflect on this, the external uh, violence, when we look within and we take it back into ourselves, we can free up a lot of um, our power by returning back to ourselves and asking ourselves, how is this happening for me? What is here for me to look at within my own self? How am I the perpetrator of violence to myself? How have I been the one at war in the past? I believe that we are all one, and so when if you spot it, you got it. In some level, if you spot it, you got it. And so if you are someone who is on a growth path and willing to be self-reflective and to look at this framework and this um, perspective and paradigm of how is this for me, then there's something there. There can always be something there to grow from and to benefit from. And it might just simply be to be present with the sadness, the fear, the anger, the dis-ease that is arising, without a story about it, without a needing to fix it or to fix ourselves, but really to reclaim our energy, to source back into self. And I believe that this season, even if you're in the southern hemisphere, there's always the light in the dark, and there's always the dark in the light. And so, although here in the northern hemisphere, a lot of us are reflecting on this being the longest, shortest day of the year, the longest night. It got, even here in Hawaii, it got dark pretty early today. The days seem to, for me, go by very quickly. And so I wanted to do this earlier, right around the solstice moment, which was about 2 hours ago ish. And here we are, a few hours later. And so when I pulled this card, I was just really struck by, the dark healing chamber is the subtext here. And there can be healing in darkness. There can be light in the most darkest of times. And also, let's reclaim the word dark. There's an association with dark being a negative thing, for some, but we came from the dark fertile void. We came, in order for a seed to gestate in the soil, it must spring forth from that dark moist soil of that, um, below the surface, and then it springs forth and germinates, and it comes to surface through the light, right? And then the sun is taking it through the next phases of its path. But even still, the roots are always rooted in the darkness, right? And so my invitation to you is to, and what I'm going to be doing as I reflect on this, is to see, um, what could the benefit be, if anything, from the hardship, the struggle, the turmoil. And again, if you hold the paradigm and perspective that we are all one, then the other that we're seeing out there that's going through whatever they're going through, or maybe it's us ourselves that's going through a period of deep despair, there is always light, even in that situation. And the main message here that I want to leave us with is that we have, those of us who are safe enough and have the privilege of being um, in a safe enough environment to have these kinds of inquiries, right? Not everybody's in that place, but here I am with that privilege, and I'm very grateful for that. And so if you are in the same place and you have, if you've been feeling down or depressed or, just really disillusioned by uh, the way you perceive humanity is progressing, I want to encourage you to come back into your own sacred center and see perhaps there is growing pains happening here. Perhaps there's something for you, for me to feel through fully. The only way out is through. And so until we reclaim our own energy from our projections of the other being bad, wrong, the problem, right? The problem's always out there from that perspective. It's never about us. Until we choose to reframe that, and when you point one finger, there's what, four, three pointing back at you, right? So it's when we reclaim our power and turn it back on into ourselves. And it's not to say like I don't ever have judgments, or it's not to say that we're not going to have a triggered response where in a moment of maybe being cut off or admonished, or where there's an other seemingly coming at you with some kind of negativity, or maybe even violence. It's not to say that to not respond or react in those situations. Like we must, sometimes we must move quickly on our feet. And the way to return to wholeness, which is always a state, in my opinion, and we're always in that state, but sometimes we just forget. And then we have these images of what we see, quote, out there that show us, oh, shit, humanity is like pretty far off the deep end right now. Like, but then again, there are so many of us that are choosing to hold in the light and choosing to focus on, yes, and yes, that's going on out there. Yes, I see that. And how can I do whatever I can within my own space to heal that feeling of separation, that's not me, or that's caused by that person, or displacing any personal responsibility to the quote other, right? And return it back into ourselves. And then from that place, if you feel inspired to act, if you feel inspired to fundraise, if you feel inspired to um, spread the word about something, and rally and build towards a quote better world, towards the vision that you and the of the world and the life that you prefer, then do it from a place of that sacred center of resourcing yourself to feel in all of the juiciness of that, what the darkness, what the quote negativity can bring us, the gift and all of that. And that, I believe, what that is the returning to ourself, to returning to source, and returning to feeling how is it happening for us. And then yes, from there I can send prayers, I can take action, I can call, whoever I need to call to make moves to support another and be of service in that way, to direct our energy in the course of action that we prefer. And to know that we also, every single person doing that inner work of feeling through that trauma that might be triggered by what you're seeing, every one of us that's doing that work and making that a priority, that energetically liberates others to do the same. That it makes it easier and more of like a energetic um, a beneficial energetic, and there's a word I'm looking for here, like a fertile ground. It makes it fertile ground for others to do the same. And so, my wish for you on this solstice day is for, as you do your deep dives, if you are deep diving, to feel into any of the places where pain is, any of the places where you feel separate, or um, where you feel like you don't belong, or you feel like all is going to hell in a handbasket, and really just take it back into yourself, to use the dark healing chamber of the unknown, which we're all living in this unknown. Let me see if there's anything else I want to mention here. Um, the last thing it says is, to safely enter the dark chamber and be healed, you must be prepared to give yourself love unconditionally. So I'm going to leave you with that. And I did want to share more around an update about what's been going on post event that I led earlier this month, the Rebel Heart Convergence. I think I'm going to end it here for now and do another live at some other point soon. But I wanted to leave you with that. And again, this is the Oracle deck. I pray you're doing well, and let me know what about this resonated or not, and how you are celebrating the solstice. Much love.